Good evening. Would like to call the March 10th, 2022 Rutherford County School Board meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance led by Ms. Jamie Sharp.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. I'd like to invite everybody to join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Number 4, approval of the agenda. Any questions, comments, or concerns by members of the board? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion. So moved. Thank you. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, approval of the consent agenda. Questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Reed?
There was one item under the consent agenda that was for board information only. It pertained to the E&A contract, and it was a little bit misworded and has been corrected online, but was not in the materials that was submitted before the meeting. So what it should say, which I think it does say now, is for E-rate purposes, the Rutherford County Schools desires to retain the right to purchase from E&A the Internet Access Services pursuant to the Tennessee State Bid Master Contract for the period referenced here. But it's not anything being approved tonight or voted on tonight. It's just the board is giving notice that for E-rate purposes, the school system is retaining the right to do that later on. And that's for E-rate purposes only. There's a deadline on March 22nd coming up for file for E-rate. And that's what's driving that item.
Okay.
So that's just for your information.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, number 6.
All right, number 6, spotlight on the education. I ask the principal, Mr. Larry Greasy, to come up and introduce this aviation program.
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock and board. Just quickly, how we come about getting this program. About 8 years ago, I went to Siegel. It was my desire to get this program, but it wasn't the right time with MTSU being so close. I felt that was the direction that we needed to go, and I just heard on the news, I guess last week, 1 out of every 20 students at MTSU is in their aviation program, so it's a great program to have at this time. And then Ms. Pilgrim and I went to McGavick about 6 years ago, I guess it was, to visit the aviation teachers, their little study council, and we met Mr. Myers. We asked Mr. Myers if we could come to his school and visit him and talk to him about his program, not knowing for sure that we were going to try to steal him that day, but it wound up leading to that conversation. We won't say what county that was, but it was good for us, and hopefully it turned out pretty good for him too. But it's a great program. Mr. Myers is doing a fantastic job. It's growing. Last year with being half virtual, and it was tough on that particular program. The students need to be in the class, in the simulators, participating and doing those activities. But we're getting back, and so with no further ado, I want to introduce Mr. Scott Myers and let him tell you a little bit about our program. We got some great students here, and he'll tell you about them as well. Thanks, sir.
Good evening. Thank you all for inviting us here to share with what we're getting to do with our students here in the county. I am Scott Myers, and I brought with me some of our young men that are in our program, Cooper Morrow, Brennan Eakes, and Aaron C. And we have some of the hardware that we're using in class. So if you'd like to see that, we can get some of that out for you and pass it around and do a show and tell as well if you're interested in that. Is that agreeable while we talk here?
Yes.
If you don't mind, fellas, go ahead and get these out here as well. And Aaron, go ahead and let's see what they're. So first of all, thank you for letting us share aviation with the students here at Rutherford County and specifically Siegel High School. We started this about 4 years ago, and right now we are very fortunate that we've gotten to a spot here in our fourth year that two of these young men before you are already licensed drone commercial pilots. And that's a big thing. That's for them to be able to graduate high school as a card-carrying member of the Federal Aviation Administration is a big thing. And you all have approved funding for us that's allowed us to reach the level that we're at right now. We have about 15 young men in this class, and believe me, we're recruiting these young ladies, but in today's world, at all these fine schools in Rutherford County, there's a lot of things that our students can get involved in. And, you know, just like tonight, we have some young men that are a part of the band that are doing some things that wanted to be here. We have a baseball player, we have a soccer player. So there's a lot of that going on. And these young ladies, especially at Siegel, have other interests. And so we're recruiting, we're trying to get them involved in our programs because we'd like to introduce this to them as well. But because of that, so far in this class, this fourth year class for these students, it's all young men. And there's about 14 that are eligible, and right now we have 6 of those young men that are commercial drone pilots. And that's a good number. And we've got about 6 more that are going to test here in the next little bit before spring break. And we're leaving that as an option. We want to be good stewards of the money that you provided with us, so we don't want to make a student take that test if he doesn't want to, because it costs a little bit of money to do that. So, but we're getting a chance to introduce these young men to, as Mr. Creasy said, an industry that is growing. I talked to a gentleman today that's in the field. He's with a company, and he reached out to us to talk about some opportunities that they have for us with drone camps. And but he says that drones are being labeled a disruptive technology, and that is, if you can think about 20 years ago how computers were. You know, we'd heard of computers, but we weren't for sure if everybody's going to get one, and now they're an everyday part of our lives. And he claims, being a part of the industry every day, that drones are going to move in to that part, and that we're going to use them for things that we can't even imagine right now. And he says that we need to get ready. We need to get our students ready, but before we get our students ready, we got to get our teachers ready. And so that's one of the programs that they offer. And so we're talking about that in the beginning stages, but to be able to present this program to these young people is a great opportunity, and most of them are taking advantage of it. And we started with an aviation flight curriculum, and we still teach that, but having this, the official name of this class is Unmanned Aircraft Pilot Systems, but we call it the drone class. But to have an opportunity for them to take the things they've learned over the last 4 years and then apply that to a federal exam and pass that and then become commercial drone pilots is a great opportunity. And we appreciate that opportunity that you guys have given us. Do you have any questions for me?
I have one question. What's the cost of the assessment, the test?
It's $175.
There may be something in this new funding formula that would address that if it's passed.
If I could, I think we have a quick video to show some of our opportunities. And if we could just stop that right there before we start. So one of the things that we did early on is we started filming our fire drills. And we did that so that our administration could look and see if we have any areas that might, if we have a lot of students coming out of one side of the building, maybe we needed to start diverting some of those to other parts. So we did a number of those fire drills, and I think that we've got those down a lot more efficient now. As you can see right now, right there in front of the school where those students are crowded up right there, if we were trying to get emergency vehicles there right now, we'd have to move students. So what we know is that in an actual emergency, those guys would have to step back further from the building. But it's just little things like that, and the drone offered that picture as well. We'll go ahead and roll that if you want. So just a few things that you've seen this past year. We actually were compensated for this by the TSSAA. We went to their cross-country state championships, and they had about a 20 by 20 LED screen, and we were able to tap into that screen, and then we provided live coverage of the race. So you could actually stand at the finish line and watch the whole race over the 3-point whatever mile course. So that's the first time they've been able to do that. And it was really good. It was a great opportunity for us, and the guys did a great job of flying the drones. And all the flying, we filmed for 2 days, I think about 6 hours. Is that right, guys? About 6 hours. And they projected that live for us, but they kept, of course, a recording of that. But we enjoyed that. That was a good opportunity for us and to bring spotlight on the program. The lights that you saw there at Christmas time, we have a gentleman on our advisory committee, and he's a pilot for Delta Airlines, but his neighborhood does that. So as a courtesy to him, we go over and film their Christmas lights every year to kind of, he helps us and we help them. And you can see just some of the opportunities to see some of the things that are in nature and whatnot around here. We try to take advantage of that. Is there any more questions for me? Yes, ma'am?
Not a question. I've seen the simulator. Will you talk about the simulator that we have?
Yes, ma'am, I can do that. So once again, because of your generosity, and Ms. Tyra and Mr. Lewis are doing a great job as far as from my perspective of providing us with just the top of the tier in equipment, and we're very thankful for that. So we have a number of simulators, but the jewel in our crown would be a Redbird FMX, and it is it's a 3-axis full motion enclosed simulator. So it holds a rating on the simulator that you can log time in the simulator, and then if your instructor or through some other recording, you can log that official time towards piloting in your logbook. So, and just for instance, once you become a private pilot, the next step is to become an instrument pilot. That takes 40 additional hours. Of that 40 hours, you can fly 20 of those in that simulator. So, I mean, it's a very, very nice piece of equipment, and it introduces our students to everything about aviation except the cost, but also except just not getting off the ground. But the way it moves, it makes you feel like you're off the ground, and it does everything that a real airplane does. So, and we use that almost daily. I think we have about 300 hours on that so far.
How many airports? I know when we were over there, I guess it was 2 years ago.
Yes, sir.
How many actual, because I think what you told me was the actual airport could be in different different locations in the United States.
So one of our drawbacks to that simulator is that it's proprietary in that Redbird wants to have control over it, and they do that through a wireless internet connection. And that's not the greatest at school. But what that does is that they update the database pretty much weekly. And what that pretty much, if the airport is recognized worldwide under this International Council of Airports, or whatever they call that, I forget the name right now, but as long as that's recognized worldwide, we can take that simulator there and fly it. So if you get online and you see the top 5 airports that are hardest to land at, we can go to those and try to fly those and land at those. Or we can do around the world flights if we wanted to. So, and we can also fly from Murfreesboro to Shelbyville, which is what we did yesterday. So it allows us that opportunity to fly just really wherever we want to. And you can, of course, see that there are missions on there where you can fly like the skyline of Chicago, and it tells you how to fly this, and you can fly New York City and different things like that, Grand Canyon and different things. So it's a very impressive piece of equipment, and obviously you're welcome to come out and just the public can come out and see it. We'd like to share that with anybody that's interested in seeing that. Anything else?
Comments?
That's wonderful.
No? Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for letting us be here.
It's a remarkable program. Next item is visitors. We have 2 this evening. I think these are in order. First visitor is Miss Geneva Cook.
Good evening, Geneva Cook, Clifton President of Rutherford Education Association. The first issue I would like to discuss is the information that was brought up about me at the February 24th board meeting. A parent told this board, and everyone listening, of an email I sent to the faculty at Blackman High. It was a legislative update listing current bills of interest to educators that are coming before the legislature and a link to connect them to their legislators. I was disappointed that the board allowed this parent to bring forth any complaint about a teacher without following the policy that the board will only hear complaints against personnel after these complaints have been carried through proper procedures from the point at which they originate. At this time, the professional educators of Rutherford County have a memorandum of understanding with the Rutherford County School Board. In section 1.2b, it states, as the exclusive designee, the association shall have the right to communicate information with professional educators through electronic and other means in the interest of public education. Then in section 3.2, the association shall have the right to use educator mailboxes, including emails, for communication purposes. Since almost everything educators do has been voted on by a politician, bills that could possibly affect their jobs are of supreme interest to the educators in public education. As the president of REA, one of my tasks is to keep educators informed, and not only my members. I am passionate about this profession and all educators. When we engaged in collaborative conferencing, for instance, everything we negotiated, including an extra bereavement day and rollover personal days, benefited every single teacher, not just my members. Empowering teachers to use their voices and understand how the process works is important. Otherwise, legislators will assume that we are just fine with everything they pass this legislative session, and honestly, we are not fine. REA is proud to stand with our professional and talented librarians, for instance. Last week, I was encouraged by the interest of this board in legislative topics at the forum you participated in along with the Murfreesboro City School Board. I heard your questions about the new funding formula and charter schools, but did not hear you ask any questions of those legislators about some of the other bills affecting teachers on a daily basis. I hope that you continue to contact them about these bills and be our partner in advocacy. Finally, it is March, and we've been waiting and waiting for some relief as we act as teachers, subs, and even custodians on some days. The sub situation is still not back to pre-pandemic levels, and who knows if it ever will be. There are still students in holding areas where teachers are managing hundreds of kids. There are teachers teaching more than one class at a time because a teacher has resigned. These teachers are not getting any kind of compensation for teaching more than one class at a time. We understand what it is to be a team player, but our fear is that this will become normalized. This cannot be what is expected from now on. We hear of your efforts to entice new teachers in through signing bonuses, and I get that, but what rewards are there for those of us who have been teaching for years and years in this county? Thank you.
Thank you. Next guest is Laura Schlesinger.
Laura Schlesinger, Rutherford County Schools teacher. While our last board meeting was in session, yet another historic Metro board meeting was in progress. As a Metro Nashville Public Schools alumna, a Rutherford County Schools teacher, and active community member, I take a vested interest in board meetings. Not only our board meetings, but those of neighboring districts. Now more than ever, and that is a good thing. And in that, I am not alone. Upon hearing Mr. Littleton, I immediately sought more information before coming to any conclusion and making any judgments. I am a math and English teacher, after all. What Mr. Littleton admittedly did not know, despite his allegations, are the facts and circumstances which Mrs. Clifton has shared. Not only that, I suspect Mrs. Clifton's one possible breach may have come from a subconscious desire to speak on behalf of a member of the Blackman High School community who had been rendered temporarily speechless. What saddens me most is neither the teacher who shared the email with Mr. Littleton nor Mr. Littleton felt they could bring something they take issue with that came from Mrs. Clifton to Mrs. Clifton. Despite the fact that we have a policy which appears on the public participation form that specifies that complaints against teachers be presented to the teacher's immediate supervisor by filing out a complaint form, Mr. Littleton's concerns are valid, especially considering what he had to work with. And the only part of his argument that struck me as disparaging was when he submitted that the pertinent policy, quote, may be vague enough that they're trying to sort of be cute and word these things so it passes under that radar. Would he have used the word cute if a man had sent that email and/or been at the helm? While holding one another accountable, let's ensure we have all the facts before publishing them. And in our presentation and approach, let's be as respectful as a master teacher is when he or she takes aside a student. Let's be fair and just. Let's listen. Let's be kind, considerate, and inquisitive. Let's empower one another so that we are better equipped to empower today's students to grasp tomorrow's opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, next item is the Capital Project Fund Budget Amendment for Smyrna High School football turf. It's found on tab 2. Smyrna High School is asking for permission from the Rutherford County School Board to install artificial turf on the Smyrna High School football field. This project will be 100% funded by donations and will be budgeted and accounted for in the County Educational Capital Projects Fund, as Smyrna High School does not have a legally separate football booster club. Total project cost is estimated to be $900,000. The attached document detailing the project has been reviewed by the Assistant Superintendent of Budget and Finance for financial compliance, as well as Rutherford County Staff Attorney, Rutherford County Athletic Director for legal and Title IX compliance. Contingent of the school board approval, the turf purchase will be made through the Rutherford County Schools Purchasing Department, and upon completion of the project, Rutherford County Schools Engineering will inspect the construction to ensure that it complies with bid specifications. It is stressed that the turf project becomes a donated asset to Rutherford County Schools, and at the time of the donation, there will be no liens on the donated property / construction as verified by the Rutherford County Board Attorney. Motion to accept this generous donation of Smyrna Ready Mix to approve the artificial turf project as presented for the project at Smyrna High School, as well as approve the budget amendment to Fund 177 to budget this capital project as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock. Any questions, comments? Mr. Bottery?
Just one item real quick. We opened this bid this afternoon, and Mr. Lee reviewed it. I had placed on the detailed amendment that's on your tab $1 million for the project costs, and if you would, to just amend your motion to have the detailed budget amendment decreased to $900,000 to marry your project cost on your motion.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
So moved. Ms. Bratton, thank you, Ms. Sharp. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item.
All right, number 9 is the Emergency PD Center roof request found on tab 3. During the recent storms, portions of the roof at the Smyrna PD Center was lifted and set back down. Temporary repairs have been made to protect the building. A roof replacement is required at this time. We're requesting to utilize existing funds in the Fund 177 from the Thurman Francis project. Mr. Bowdry agrees with this request and provide a budget amendment when the time is appropriate. Motion to approve the request to utilize $57,541.26 from Fund 177 to replace the damaged roof at the Smyrna PD Center as presented.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, members of the board? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Item passes. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, I guess we'll skip over that. Number 11, biometrics component of electronic timekeeping. Motion to adjust the electronic timekeeping system to keep time and code entry portions of the system, but to remove biometric fingerprinting and biometric face recognition and/or photo elements of the system as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I not add an addendum to this?
This is the new form, right? Okay,
Did I?
was the,
Yes.
She did add an.
okay, we didn't get it on there. All right, I think I remember, and for the central office to refund any outstanding,
We've already.
purchase of the,
Yes, sir. Yes, to refund
The
any
purchases?
purchases from ADM funds,
Right.
which we've already sent that out to. We're getting that taken care of. And then next fiscal year, I'll have for the maintenance agreements will be in the general purpose school fund, not on ADM.
But we need to add that to this.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock. You want to say that again, and we'll vote?
yeah, we can do that. Motion to adjust the electronic timekeeping system to keep time and code entry portions of the system, but to remove biometric fingerprinting and biometric face recognition and/or photo elements of the system as presented. Also refunding of the purchase of the apparatus, and next year put into the general purpose school fund, money to pay for the membership, the maintenance, okay?
Okay, so what are we using now? I know I probably missed this, but
Just a punch clock?
just the,
What this will do is, this will be so that the sole electronic timekeeping system used that the employee would see would just be the key punch.
just to keep on.
Yes, sir.
Left of the current
Correct.
finger.
We're actually looking at actually replacing those, even though they're not going to be used, that they can be converted, so we'll get a credit for that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I do have a question, and this may be for Mr. Lee, excuse me. Maintenance uses and has used biometrics for some time. Am I right in that?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay. And so I wonder, I know that we don't want to use biometrics within the schools, but I would ask the board if it would be agreeable with your department to keep maintenance on, because they've been using it for some time, to keep them on the same, on this program. They'd be exempt from this.
And I would agree with that. And the main reasoning is we have so many people trying to clock in at the same time. It's actually faster for the fingerprint. And I don't know how many Mike's doing, but he's adjusting time for probably 30 to 40% of his employees every day because they miss code, because they're in a hurry, because you've got 14 minutes for everybody to clock in. And even though we have additional machines in our building, it's much quicker for them to use the fingerprint, and they're fine with it.
I agree with Ms. Johnson.
I'm just asking to leave it, let us keep it, and if it doesn't work, we'll go to the code, we'll go back to the code, but right now, the fingerprint is really working well for us.
How long have you been using this?
Probably, I was gonna say 6 months, but Mike says it's closer to 8.
Okay, so it's been this year.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So,
You want to add, does,
I was just going to ask, there may be other employees that might use biometric too, so why can we not just make it an option, have both?
you would have to know, though, when you install.
He does. I know which ones are using. I mean, and that's when we started this. We allowed the principals to have an option. All supervisors, like Mike, Mr. Walls, they have an option to use either the code or the fingerprint. And that is one of the things that had come up is some people actually like using that because they use it on their phones. They use it, and I mean, I understand the concern of the board, but if it was a way to just have it optional. Let this principal or supervisor have it optional, because once again, the thought is it's easier for the employees to do.
I think the term "let the principal," I think we should say "let the employees."
Yes.
There's a big difference in that. I didn't get anybody that emailed me saying that they loved biometrics. Not one email. I got a lot of emails saying they hate biometrics. And I think it's great that it's working for the maintenance staff, and I see your points for it. But I don't think at the schools that's not what our staff want.
I think for the teachers, they may step out of their car and someone call them and ask them to work, and, they can't go clock in and come back and help with something. So I think it just depends where it is. The maintenance, if they go to the building to sign in, they're not on the clock when they step out in the parking lot like our teachers are.
and teachers are not currently using this system. No, this is educational staff only, just to be clear. So, or staff. So what would our, I think optional by Ms. Maxwell, this is you have brought this, so we want to respect what your request was. I agree with the educational perspective. I don't want to amend that.
And that's really all I was
focusing at
thinking. I
maintenance.
really wasn't thinking of changing it for the maintenance staff. I was just thinking for the educational staff in our schools. They would go back to the original timekeeping system, clocking in with a code, and not do biometrics, because that really was just not good for morale at all.
Okay. I agree. I can support that. So, Mr. Spurlock, you want
Yeah.
to amend our motion for?
We can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, to adjust electronic timekeeping system to keep time and code entry portions of the system, but to remove biometric fingerprinting and biometric face recognition and/or photo elements of the system as presented, with the exception of the maintenance department.
Thank you. All right, and if there's no further discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, we've done the number 12, so it'd be Booster Club guidelines. I think that was presented to you on Tuesday night.
I don't think that there's anything more, unless there's conversation that the board wants to have. I think we had a lot of clarification on this item, and the only thing that came out of that, Ms. Ridley's not here this evening, but working on a policy that will clean up some of that language and clarify for our parents. So we'll work on that at the policy committee meeting. Thank you. Next item.
All right, number 14, naming of the Smyrna High School football field is found on tab 4. Smyrna High School is requesting that the football field at Smyrna High School's Robert L. Rake Stadium be named the Smyrna Ready Mix. The facility would be called Smyrna Ready Mix Field at Robert L. Rake Stadium. Motion to approve the football field at Smyrna High School to be named after Smyrna Ready Mix. This facility would be called the Smyrna Ready Mix Field at Robert L. Rake Stadium as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? There are none. We'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Scher. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, this next one is a special course request found on tab 5. This is the Life Skills Management course that was requested to be taught at Laverne High School. The instruction department is requesting permission to make an application to offer credit for special courses under the following guidelines: Rule 0520-1-3-05-2A. Local school systems may offer special courses not listed in 0520-1-3-06 on an experimental basis. Commissioner of Education must approve each course in advance each year. Rutherford County High Schools are requesting the approval of the following course request, which is Life Skills Management. Motion to approve the 2022-2023 special course request of Rutherford County High Schools as presented.
Thank you. Did you say this was only at one high school?
Right now, it's only at, we'll pilot there and then see how that works.
Yeah, each school has an option to submit special course requests, and this was the only school that submitted one for this school year.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Members of the board? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item, Mr.
All right, number 16, legal, found on tab 6, disciplinary hearing appeal. The board has been requested to review the decision of the disciplinary hearing authority to uphold the remand of a student at Stewart's Creek High School. Based on the review of the DHA's record, excuse me, the board may do the following: affirm the decision of DHA, overturn the decision of DHA, or grant a hearing before the board. Motion to approve one of these suggestions above as presented.
Thank you. I'm going to make sure I have the right school. Right. We have two this evening.
Stewart's Creek.
We're limited on the information we can discuss, but my question is for members of the board in reviewing this file. Although I understand there are issues, I don't know that the issues elevate to remammon. And
I concur.
I am concerned that we may be sending students that maybe need different kind of services.
Yes.
And so I would be interested to hear how the board members.
Is there anyone here from the families?
I do not think so. I don't know. Is any member of the family here? Members of the board?
I hear what you're saying, Ms. Johnson. And I also want to say that there comes a point in a classroom situation or the hall or wherever you are in a school when they force you out of options. And that's what I see that this child has done. It's one thing after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, until you have nothing left to do. One thing that I wish we had an in-between stage, but we don't at this point. And it's very difficult for me to take a look at this and think that they would have brought us this if they were not out of options.
I appreciate your position. And I do understand that I am sympathetic to the staff and the teachers, the administration. I am. But I also understand that we have difficult children at times. And I think that when we overflow our alternative schools, this child will take up a space that to me maybe should be reserved for a different offender. And so I respect your position, but that's where I'm at. So if there's any other conversation.
Well, and reading it, I came to the same conclusion. I won't go with what the board recommends, but my own gut feeling is that there has to be another option before sending this child to alternative school.
I'd like to make a motion. We move to affirm the decision.
Okay, we have a motion to affirm.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Ms. Hopkins, would you please take the roll on this?
No.
Yes.
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 No. Thank you. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
Number 2, the board has been requested to review the decision of the Disciplinary Hearing Authority to uphold the remammon of a student from Smyrna High School. Based on the review of the DHA's record, you can do the following. A, affirm the decision, overturn the decision, or grant a hearing before the board.
Thank you. Same applies to this one, members of the board. If there's any questions, you may have already reached out to Ms. Ridley or our legal staff. This one is different but similar, and so I stand in the same place on this offense, this student. Reprimand. Any other comments or questions from members of the board? Okay, if not, we'll entertain a motion. So members of the board, we can either move to affirm the decision, overturn the decision of the DHA, or grant a hearing before the board.
Make a motion to affirm the decision.
Second.
Thank you, and thank you. Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, next item is financial matters found on tab 7, Stewart's Creek High School Football Booster Club Turf Project Request. The Red Hawk Football Booster Club Incorporated is asking for permission from the Rutherford County School Board to install artificial turf on the Stewart's Creek High School football field. This project will be 100% funded by the Booster Club and an unsecured loan that will be payable by the Booster Club. Total project cost is estimated at $790,000. The attached document detailing the project has been reviewed by the Assistant Superintendent of Budget and Finance for financial compliance, as well as our Rutherford County staff attorney and the Rutherford County Athletics Director for legal and Title IX compliance. Contingent on the school board approval, the turf purchase will be made through Rutherford County Purchasing Department. Upon completion of the project, Rutherford County Schools Engineering will inspect and construct the construction to ensure that it complies with bid specifications. It is stressed that the turf project becomes a donated asset from the Booster Club to the Rutherford County Schools, and at that time of the donation, there will be no liens on the donated property / construction as verified by the Rutherford County Schools Board Attorney. Motion to approve the Red Hawk Booster Club project request as presented with no cost of construction to the Rutherford County Board of Education as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns by members of the board?
Has that estimate changed or no?
It hasn't. This year is a little different from Smyrna. Smyrna's taken the dirt and repurposing it back onto their practice field.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Now we'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, number 18, found under Facilities, tab 8, Blackman Middle School Auditorium Light Request. Principal Amy Conifee Marlin has requested to upgrade the portion of the auditorium light system. Engineering and Construction has reviewed the request and approved. This request is at no cost to the board. It was a $9,000 donation to the school by an industry partner. Motion to approve the Blackman Middle request to upgrade the portion of auditorium lights at no cost to the board as presented.
Thank you. Nice donation. Questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item.
All right, the 5-year building program on Tuesday, February the 22nd. The 5-year building program was approved by the Health and Education Committee in concept. Funding for the design was also approved. The committee requested the board prioritize the first 2 years projects over a 3-year period and come back before them with their requests. Full county commission approval is required. So we're asking the board to prioritize these so that we can provide that to the commission.
Thank you. Conversation, members of the board.
Well, you know I say Laverne and Smyrna.
What is that?
You know I say Laverne and Smyrna.
Yes, ma'am.
Here's my question. Do we need more information before we jump into this?
I feel we do.
Okay. What information do you think we need, Mr. Young?
I think we need to go back and revisit and make sure that our classrooms that we're adding at these schools match up to the maximum capacity we will allow at these schools. Otherwise, we don't get over 2,500 students.
That's true.
Mr. Lee.
The design of all of these schools has not gotten far enough along to do that. But if the board instructs us, we will look at each school's capacity. We will add that correct number of classrooms and then bring that design back to you and show you that we're not exceeding 2,500. Is that? I think that's because right now the design's not far enough along to show you that.
How much longer would this take?
Oh, it's probably going to be, I think for this purpose, we prioritize, and then before we go out for bid or finalize the drawings, we take one board meeting or a half a board meeting, and I come in and just show you all the designs, show you the numbers where they are, what their capacity is, because and I'm going to use Oakland or Riverdale as an example, we may need to add, and I'm picking a number, 32 classrooms to get to that magic number. But by repurposing and moving things around, we may actually show 36 or 38 classrooms, when in actuality, I've taken 4 or 5 of those classrooms from inside the building and repurposed them for something else, so I'm adding them back in the new addition. So that math, y'all need to see that math, and that's a couple of months down the road in the design process. What they are looking for from you guys is which one is number 1, which one's number 2, which one's number 3, and which one's number 4 in your order of priority. I'm supposing at this moment that if they think they can only do 2, they're going to give us 2. If they think they can fund 3, they're going to fund 3. That's why they're asking for your order of importance. They've approved the $5.7 million to design all 5. After next board meeting, when we bring that to the board for which architect, we'll turn the architects loose and we'll start design.
But to Mr. Young's point, we still have to go back to health and ed.
Yes.
Right.
So we're looking at next month, so if it's something we could do within the month of March to provide additional information that they may need.
That would be very, very helpful.
Mr. Estes,
Is
you
there,
wanna weigh in on that?
and I would request that the board just at this time provide, I know Mr. Young has mentioned the max that we want to put. Now, one of the things he's talking about is we repurpose areas to build in the core. Unfortunately, places like Rockville Middle, we weren't able to. We're talking about cafeteria space, additional bathrooms, auditorium, expansion, things of that nature.
I would really like to table this for just a little bit more information and a little bit more consideration, a little bit more thing. The 2,500 is great. And I think we all agreed on that and made that known to Mr. Lee, but I would really like to table this at least till our next regular meeting.
So getting to the 2,500 could look a little bit different.
It's going to look different at each school, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
No,
sir.
This meeting.
And I'll say it again, and Mr. Spurlock will reiterate, everybody says Oakland and Riverdale are exactly alike, and they're not.
No idea.
They're not presently alike. They weren't exactly alike when they were built. They were built a classroom or 2 different. Now, I'm not saying they're not close to the same, but over the years, they've gotten even more different. So what we've got, and to your point, it's going to look different even at Blackman, Smyrna, and Laverne. And Smyrna and Laverne are similar but not exact. They're going to look different. We're going to have to look at the rooms they've got, how many students are there, and how many can they hold. Add that number to get them to 25, and then the other classrooms are what we've shuffled around and moved around, and I'll be able to show you that.
If we put this off till the next meeting, will we still be okay with health and ed and being in line? Because we need to move on this.
Yes, you need, and what I'm telling you I'm going to do won't be ready at the next board meeting, but it will come before we turn the jobs loose. Y'all just need to tell them which one's your priority. But yes, that can wait another board meeting.
So you want the prioritized list to
Yes.
describe the design as well?
I'm going to design all of them. I'm designing all 5 of them. They've approved the money to design all 5. But what they're going to do is you guys are going to say, Riverdale's, go ahead.
Let me jump in here. The health and ed has approved. Now tonight,
Yes.
we'll see, the budget and finance should approve, and then it will go to the full commission.
That's correct.
But if we wait just one more meeting, we can't wait that.
No, I don't
No,
think
you
I don't think
can't.
it'd be a problem.
With the next meeting to, okay.
Yeah, your next health and ed would be in April.
Yes.
First
So we
week
need
in
to give
April.
them a list
But
by next.
the next
Next
meeting.
board meeting, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next board
You
meeting
may have
just need,
some more information that you want us to have by
Why
then.
don't you send them some
preliminary
stuff.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can tell you this much, at Smyrna, Laverne, and Blackman, I don't have an idea yet of what's going to be displaced, other than their cafeteria and their kitchens. I can tell you that right off the jump. They're going to be. As far as interior classrooms, we've had no meetings with those principals. The only principals I've met with is Oakland and Riverdale. I have an idea of what's going to be displaced, and I can give you a possible what's going to be displaced. And I can show you, I'll probably show you a drawing of what it's going to look like. Smyrna is a shot in the dark, and Laverne's the same way, and I have nothing at Blackman.
When is our next regular?
21st and 22nd.
21st, 22nd.
But yes,
21st
I
and
can
22nd.
send you those electronically. I can send you all of that now. I can tell you what their
21st.
capacity is, and then I can tell you roughly how many classrooms we need to add at each one.
Okay. 21st and March 21st. I would like to table this until March 21st and 22nd, and you get back to us, Mr. Lee, with as much more information as you can possibly give us.
I'd like to second that.
I don't know that we need a vote on it, if we're just going to table it for next meeting.
Okay.
I do appreciate it. Mr. Lee, I'd also like to explore further Stewart's Creek Elementary. We know we have an issue there, but Mr. Spurlock, maybe you can help us with this. The surrounding areas, the surrounding schools and their population, I'd like to see if we can explore maybe moving some of those kids that are coming in. What are the options in addressing that population issue at Stewart's Creek Elementary?
You know, one of the things we looked at was Browns Chapel. However, with the build-out of Shelton Farms, I'm afraid if you did anything there, you would be moving them back within a year or two.
I appreciate
That
Members
area-
of the-
I'm sorry, that area is growing. Like, when I went to the tournament last week, I drove around some of the areas I hadn't been in a while, and the growth over there is incredible.
It is indeed. Members of the board, I would reiterate, please reach out to Mr. Lee, Mr. Spurlock, the staff, if you have other questions. We would really like to get something moving for the next meeting, so we will move this to the next calendar. Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Next item, Mr. Spurlock.
All right, number 3, Rocky Fork Middle Baseball School Board electrical request. Principal Jennifer Clark has requested to install electrical service to location for future school board. Engineering and Construction has reviewed the request and approves. This request is at no cost to the board. Motion to approve the Rocky Fork Middle Baseball School Board electrical service at no cost to the board as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? If none, we'll entertain a motion.
I move.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell, excuse me.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item.
All right, number 4, Stewart's Creek Middle Wildflower Garden and Apiary Project. Principal Tony Murray has a request to install a wildflower garden. This is a STEM project to be funded through the TSIN TVA. Engineering Construction has requested and approves. Motion to approve the Stewart's Creek Middle Wildflower and Garden and Apiary Project at no cost to the board as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? If none, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you, Mr. Holden. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? Next item, Mr.
All right, number 5, CTE and Oakland High School Storage Building. Principal John Marshall and CTE are requesting to construct a 24 by 36 metal-sided storage building. Engineering Construction has reviewed the request and approves it. The building will be funded from CTE funds and it will be kept below $25,000. Motion to approve the CTE and Oakland High School request to build the 24 by 36 storage building utilizing CTE funds as presented.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? If none, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Holden.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any member wish to abstain? All right, next item.
All right, I think we did the insurance update on Tuesday night. All right, I've got 2 things. I want to first start off, and I do appreciate the REA coming forward, and I do understand these vacancies that we've had. You know, no one wants to hear about how many other counties have. We want to resolve the problem that we have. So I'm going to have Dr. Anthony, if you would, present some of this, and at the same time, some solutions that we're looking at to try to close these vacancies, which would include our substitutes also.
Good evening, Board. I sent you a packet earlier this week, and then what's going out now is our current recruitment plan, January going forward, so we can talk about some of those points as well. One of the requests was to look at our current certified positions that are open. This would not be including our positions for next year. And so you have that list that I sent you this week. Some surrounding counties, their numbers. Knoxville has 258 positions posted. Williamson at the end of February had 71 with 200 in their classified positions that were open. Hamilton is running about 195. Clarksville is very close to 200. Sumner, 57. Maury County, 87. Metro, 598. So many of the counties are experiencing the same, shortfall on being able to find adequate number, for our openings. We've been involved with many job fairs, as you can see. I was telling Mr. Spurlock, probably one of the most exciting thing is to see that other districts are now copying what we're doing. So I was showing him, we were looking at the other districts' websites to see if there's any other areas that we could work on and improve. We have an HR directors and leaders email chain, and we happened to look at Robertson County, and they copied. The only thing they did was change the background color to yellow instead of green on our yard signs. So compliment, even used the Apple and the QR, they made their own QR code, so it was very cute. We were excited to see that many are using our ideas. We get lots of calls. So we do try to find different ways and different avenues, and you can see that the job fairs that we're going to, we have one coming up pretty soon that has about a dozen of the Nashville universities coming up at the end of the month during spring break. Unfortunately, they have such low numbers, they're now pulling those job fairs, so that's at the state fairgrounds at the end of the month. But you can see what we're doing. We're doing some certified and classified job fairs, getting out into the business community, attending meetings, doing presentations. We're working today. We were trying to finalize our billboards for the interstate, one to be static as well as one to be electronic, just trying to advertise that we do have openings and in the hopes that we'll be able to gain additional employees. Of course, you probably read in the Employee Insider today that we're working right now on our Future Teachers Academy. And so we already have about 24 of our certified employees that are very interested in that opportunity so that they can gain their master's degree and be able to start in the classroom in the fall. So we're really excited about that. So we thought we'd start out with a big class, and I think we're going to see that come to fruition. So I wanted you to see those numbers. Also, an area that you had mentioned is looking currently at our retention rates. So you can see the breakdown of resignations and retirements that we know of to this date, and then because we requested everybody to tell us if they were intending to return, you can see those numbers as well for the retention rates, both for certified and classified. I thought you might like to see that. And then also in your packet is the information about the exit surveys. Those are anonymous, but we're able to divide them out, certified and classified, so you can see their answers to those questions. And we've been doing that just to help us benchmark to see areas that we can work on as well. One of the other areas is where we've been working with Mr. Beaudry and our salary committee, basically trying to look at additional areas that we can improve pay for both certified and classified. And so these are some proposals that our committee has come up with. And then Mr. Beaudry will be bringing, as Mr. Spurlock said, I believe it was the last board meeting or the meeting before, we'll be bringing those budget items to your attention. The next item was substitute vendors. Our committee of 10 will be voting, a final vote next Tuesday, And Mr. Creasy is on the committee, so he's right behind me. And so that way we can get it on the April 7th board meeting. We had half of the vendors that we did 3 years ago, but these vendors are really great, and they have some opportunities, so you can see a little snapshot. I tried to read through the packets and give you a little snapshot of their prices and those kind of items, and then our committee will have a recommendation on the April 7th board meeting. Currently, today, we were at about a 69% fill rate. I think it was 68.75. We have seen the numbers drop on the request for subs. We're running about 450. Now we're running about 275 requests a day. So that has dropped, which has been very helpful. We're having substitutes. We're fingerprinting them all the time. So having you come in as well as, leave out some, Ms. Lee tells us from Advantage, some will say they're coming to the meetings to sign up, and some show up and some do not. So that's one of those opportunities that we're continuing to work on. It's interesting that we were at a classified event with the Steak and Shake owners, and he and his wife would love to give back 2 days a week, so we've talked them into subbing on top of their job. So we've been recruiting other ways in addition to certified and classified, trying to get additional ones to join. I think it's just getting the word out, finding out what other community events we can go to. Some of them have interesting titles, as you can see in there, but I thought you would get a kick out of some of those as well. Something else, I think Mr. Spark may have mentioned this, the House Bill 1901 that talks about if the director approves and if this goes through, then based on approval, the state may be allowed, and you probably saw this in the news at the end of the last month, potentially to allow people to be able to teach except for special ed and PE in those areas. Those are the two exceptions. We'll be watching that House bill. It's House Bill 1901 or Senate Bill 1863. Representative Terry Weaver has been behind the House bill. So that's a very interesting read. If you'd like to have a copy of that, I'll be glad to send that to you. I know you've been reading about that. But again, the handout I gave tonight was just an update. We've been involved with radio, Rotary clubs, going to every kind of magazine or even electronic opportunities to advertise more of our openings. So this is a new way and of advertising, and so I think nationally everybody's really realizing that, because even the job fairs that they are doing nationally, where you used to see maybe 200 or 300, you may see 5 or less, in that pool. So I think that maybe the one that's at the end of the month for the 11 to 12 area universities may be fruitful, and so we plan to be there with our swag. I hope you have some of our new swag. We left that on the table. Everybody, that's a good way to get everybody to the table and get them to start talking. But we have been participating in many of these events, and we'll continue in that area.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dr. Anthony?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so excited to see on June 5th that we're going to have an in-person recruitment fair. I think that's, first of all, it means that, yeah.
Thank you, Latoni.
Well,
we've been working with
really,
Stewart's Creek's group, helping us to try to find a location and getting an opportunity for.
I'm so excited
for in person.
Yeah.
We did our virtual, and that was very successful with several on the day tracks, and then several following up. And with that competitiveness of our principals, having have the opportunity to be able to talk to many candidates. But we're hoping this will also help us in our needs going forward.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. Appreciate all your hard work on this.
All right. Okay, I've got one more item. First of all, I hope everyone knows what Sunday, March the 13th is. That's 2 years than when we entered the pandemic, and things are looking a lot better. But I'd like to read this, if you would bear with me. It's been almost 2 years since COVID shut down our school district. We have learned many things about our district during these past 2 years. We have identified our strengths, and we have identified areas to be strengthened. However, through it all, our students, teachers, administrators, staff, and central office personnel have persevered through many obstacles and that were brought on by the pandemic. Through problem solving and determination, our school district was a level 5 this past year, along with 9 reward schools. However, there is much work ahead to advance our district to the heights we seek to desire. Recently, the conversation about our district has shifted from a narrative of student success to the results of the director's school's evaluation. It should never be about the person who sits in the seat and all about the opportunities for success for every child in our school district. My contract with the school board is set to expire on June the 30th of 2023. I'm invested in our school district, not only as a director of school, but as a father and a grandfather. The future of our school district is very bright and we'll need someone to take it to the next level. While writing this statement, I was reminded of a verse of scripture that captures my feelings when it pertains to COVID. I have fought the good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept my faith. Therefore, if it is the will of this board, I'm agreeable to negotiate terms to amend my contract.
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock. Mr. Reed? We've heard Mr. Spurlock's statement this evening, and if it's all right, he and I will get with you to work out terms and have conversations.
Very well. We can do that, yes.
And per statute, I do believe that we need to call a 15-day meeting, a special called meeting in 15 days.
Correct. You have to give 15 days notice before you had a meeting on it, yes.
Yes. So, Ms. Hopkins, can you see what 15 days from, would that be from today or tomorrow, Mr. Reed?
I've read it from tomorrow.
Okay. And if it falls on a Saturday, we can do Saturday, but not a Sunday, please.
It's 15 calendar days, so I think it'd be the last week of March would be the first time you could consider it.
Okay. 28. And we'll post that immediately. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Spurlock. Next item is 21, Tennessee Legislative. Ms. Maxwell?
Yes, be a lot of shorter week. We had 2 bills that failed. The bill to recall school board members failed in committee. The bill to resurrect the school voucher also failed in committee. One that did advance was the obscene books bill. That advanced.
Okay, thank you. How about federal?
Don't have anything today for federal.
That's okay. Appreciate it. General discussion. Members of the board, any general discussion this evening? I do have a few things. I worked with Mr. Bodery today. You'll find on your desk an updated budget schedule. Please look over these dates, amend your calendar. I would appreciate it if members of the board would plan to attend joint health and ed meetings, or the joint health and ed meeting, the county budget meetings, and any health and ed meetings. We know our budget's going to be large, and it's going to be, we're going to learn a lot through this process, so I would encourage everybody to plan to attend. The other thing I want to the budget, I want to mention, you know, we often talk about cafeteria workers in different positions up here, but there are we're looking at all of them. So we talked this evening about maintenance that often gets overlooked. We appreciate all the staff in our system. We know that it takes a huge team, so we're very thankful. We've often overlooked some of the unsung heroes, if you will. So I did want to make a point that members of the board, when you get an opportunity, please remember to thank them all. If there's no other discussion this evening or no other items, members of the board? Okay. Thank you to the sheriff's deputies who are always here. We appreciate you. We are adjourned.